Here's something that might surprise you. A single dose of psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, causes your brain to change 3 times more than a stimulant like Ritalin. And we're not talking about subtle shifts. We're talking about the most profound disruption to brain networks ever measured in a healthy human brain. So what's actually happening up there? And why does it matter for treating conditions like depression and addiction? I'm Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and in my decades working in addiction medicine, I've seen treatments come and go. But this new research from Washington University, just published in Nature, is genuinely remarkable. And it helps explain why psychedelics are showing such promising results in clinical trials. The researchers used something called precision functional mapping. Essentially, they scanned the same people's brains roughly 18 times each, before, during, and after taking psilocybin. This isn't your typical neuroimaging study with a quick scan or two. This is watching the brain with unprecedented detail. And here's what they found. When people took a 25 milligram dose of psilocybin, their brains essentially desynchronized. Think of your brain normally as an orchestra playing in harmony, different sections working together in coordinated patterns. Psilocybin disrupts that coordination. Not randomly, though, in very specific ways. The biggest changes happened in what's called the default mode network. Now, this is fascinating from both a neuroscience and clinical perspective. The default mode network is active when you're thinking about yourself, remembering the past, imagining the future. It's deeply connected to your sense of self, your ego, if you will. And psilocybin dramatically reduces the usual patterns of connectivity in this network. The study found that these brain changes were strongest in the default mode network, which is connected to the anterior hippocampus and creates our sense of space and time and self. Here's where it gets really interesting. The degree of brain disruption correlated almost perfectly with how intense people's mystical experiences were, with a correlation of 0.81. When people reported profound experiences of ego dissolution or transcendence of space and time, their brain scans showed the most dramatic changes. The subjective experience and the neuroscience line up beautifully. Now, here's what this means for you and for medicine. I often see patients whose brains have become stuck in destructive patterns. Depression works similarly: rigid thought patterns, rumination, an overactive sense of negative self-reflection. What this research suggests is that psilocybin essentially gives the brain a profound reset. And crucially, these changes persist. The researchers found decreased connectivity between the hippocampus and the default mode network lasting for weeks after just a single dose. This might explain the clinical trial results we've been seeing. Single doses of psilocybin have produced rapid and sustained symptom relief in depression, addiction, and end-of-life anxiety. There's another practical finding here that's quite clever. When participants performed a simple perceptual task during the psilocybin experience, it significantly reduced the brain disruption. This parallels what therapists call grounding techniques, redirecting attention externally when the experience becomes overwhelming. The neuroscience validates the therapy technique. Look, we're still in early days with psychedelic medicine, and this isn't something to experiment with on your own. These studies use medical-grade psilocybin in control settings with trained facilitators. But understanding how these compounds work at the brain level helps us move from mysticism to medicine. And that's where the real therapeutic potential lies. For more evidence-based health insights, subscribe to MedHeads.